Today is the 7th of Kislev, and we are in the middle of chapter 23, discussing the laws of Torah reading. Today we'll be doing paragraphs 16 through 22. Paragraph 16. Most holidays in Israel, they have 2 days of the holiday, while outside Israel, they only have 1 day of the holiday. So, for example, on Sukkot, outside Israel, you begin with 2 full holidays, and you end with 2 full days of holidays, while outside Israel, it's only 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end. The same with Passover, with Pesach. Now, whether you keep 2 days or 1 day does not depend where you are, but where you live. So, for example, if you have an Israeli visiting America, then they'd keep 1 day of the holiday. And if you have an American visiting Israel, they'd be keeping 2 days of the holiday. So let's say you have an Israeli Kohen who's visiting America. And so the second day of the holiday is not a holiday for him. It's a regular Tuesday or whatever day it is. And he goes to shul anyways. Let's say he's visiting family. His family's going to shul, so he's going to go to shul with them. For them, it's still Yom Tif. It's still a holiday today. So he's going along with them to shul. And he's a Kohen, and they call him up to get an aliyah for Torah reading. Now, for him, it's not a holiday. Is he allowed to get an aliyah or not? So the rule is that he's not supposed to get an aliyah. What do you do, however, if they called him up? They didn't know that he was only keeping 1 day of the holiday, and they called him up to get an aliyah. So then the rules are the same as a fast day, which is not fasting like we did in chapter 15. Even if they call him up, he's supposed to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't have an aliyah today, and they should send somebody else up instead. However, if it is a Monday or a Thursday, when anyways there's Torah reading even for this Israeli Kohen, then he could take that first aliyah once he's called up. They should have called him up, but if they do call him up, he could then take that aliyah. Paragraph 17. We saw a few paragraphs back that the one who gets called up to make a blessing of the Torah is supposed to really be reading along with the Torah reader. Let's say you have somebody who's blind, they're not able to see. Are they able to get an aliyah? Or do you say that no, since they can't read along with the Torah reader, they can't get an aliyah? The answer is that they are able to get an aliyah because even though it's preferable to read along with the Torah reader, even somebody who cannot and does not know how to is still able to get an aliyah. For this reason, we'll give aliyahs not only to people who are blind who can't see, but also to people who might not even be able to read Hebrew, or people who might be able to read Hebrew are not very knowledgeable and don't have the ability of reading along with the Torah reader. We still will give them an aliyah. Paragraph 18. Before the person who gets an aliyah makes the blessing, the Torah reader, as we saw, is supposed to show him the spot where they're going to read from. Let's say he shows him the spot, then the person getting the aliyah makes the blessing, and the Torah reader says, oh my goodness, I showed you the wrong spot. What do you do? Is that blessing that the Ola, the one getting the aliyah made, is that a valid blessing, a valid bracha? Or does he have to make a new bracha before they start reading from the correct spot? So the answer is depends. If this correct spot was open, was still within those columns that were in front of where the Torah reader and the person in the aliyah are looking at, if it's in those few columns that are open, then no new blessing is needed. However, if they have to roll the Torah to a new spot, if he was a few columns away, and therefore the Torah is open to the wrong spot when he showed him where to read from, then he would have to make a new blessing. The next few paragraphs are not so relevant for the average person because it goes with how the aliyahs are divided up. Now, it's not really such a big deal, these paragraphs, because we just follow along with the chumash from the back of the siddur to know where to stop, where to end. It only becomes relevant if a mistake was made. Do you have to redo an aliyah or something of that nature? So we're going to go through it, but it does get a little bit technical, so if it gets confusing, don't worry about it. Just move on to the next paragraph. So paragraph 19. Each person that gets an aliyah, they're supposed to have at least 3 psukim, 3 verses read per aliyah. In addition, on Mondays and Thursdays and Shabbos afternoon by the mincha, the afternoon service, you're supposed to have a minimum of 10 verses read. That means that one of the people getting aliyah will have at least 4 verses, because if you just have 3 plus 3 plus 3, that obviously is only 9, so someone's going to have at least 4. The one exception to this is on Purim morning, there's 3 aliyahs, and each aliyah only has 3 verses read. So you end up with a total of 9. That's the one time the whole year where the Torah reading only has 9 verses. Paragraph 20. The Torah is divided into different paragraphs called parshas. Now, this is not when we say parsha, we'll talk about the parsha of the week, which means the section of the week that we're reading for that week, that Shabbos morning. These parshas are really paragraphs that are in the Torah. So there are closed parshas and open parshas. A closed parsha is when the paragraph ends in the Torah, and the next paragraph begins on the same line further down the line. An open paragraph is where one paragraph ends, and the next paragraph begins on the next line. So regardless of how the paragraph ends or begins, whether it's an open paragraph, a closed paragraph, we're never supposed to end an aliyah within 3 verses of the beginning or the end of one of these paragraphs of one of these parshas. So let's say the Torah reader stopped too early. Now, again, the way it's divided up in our chumishes, in our sitters, in the back of the sitters, we don't have to worry about this because it's set up properly that we're never going to run into a problem or ending too early or ending too late. But let's say the Torah reader makes a mistake and he ends two verses with 2 verses left to the end of the paragraph, to the end of the parsha. He wasn't supposed to do that. He's supposed to leave at least 3 verses left at the end of the parsha, or go into the next parsha, the next paragraph, at least 3 verses. But he made a mistake. He left 2 verses left at the end of this parsha, the end of this paragraph. So what do you do for the next aliyah? Could you start from where he left off, or do you have to go backwards and begin from the third to last verse in this paragraph, meaning that you're repeating the last verse that you had in the previous aliyah? So first of all, of course, if the person getting the aliyah didn't make the second blessing, the Torah reader could still continue and you don't have a problem. But if this person getting the aliyah, that first aliyah, made the blessing, that's where this is an issue, because now the Torah reader can't just continue. So the person getting the next aliyah, the answer is that when the person gets the next aliyah, the Torah reader does not have to go backwards. He could start from where he left off the previous aliyah, but he has to make sure to go at least 3 verses into the next paragraph. If you have a paragraph which contains only 2 verses, then you could stop at the beginning or the end of the paragraph, even though you're within 3 verses of the beginning or the end of the paragraph. Because it's the end of the paragraph, it's not a problem stopping over there. Now you have a few times in the Torah, you have a new paragraph in the middle of a verse. In that case, you could stop an aliyah, you can end an aliyah at the beginning of that verse which has the break in it. Paragraph 21 really covered this already within paragraph number 20, but you're not able to start an aliyah within the first 3 verses of a new paragraph, and you can't end an aliyah within the first 3 verses of a new paragraph. Paragraph 22. We always want aliyahs preferably to begin with a topic that has something which is good about the Jews, and want to end with something that is good about the Jews. Also, we don't want to end an aliyah with something that is reading about somebody who did a sin, did something that they weren't supposed to. Again, this isn't so relevant for us because we just follow whatever it says in the Torah, in the Chumash, or in the back of the Siddur, where the aliyahs start, where the aliyahs end. But if for whatever reason the Torah reader made a mistake and I have to fix it up, these are things to keep in mind when fixing it up. This concludes today's episode. Have a wonderful day and see you tomorrow.